Hello. I have sort of got guests today. I've got a very lovely guest, but I haven't got the guest that I thought I had. And that is very much due to me being absolutely rubbish at administration, in that I connected to the guests and thought they'd connected back, but I'd also connected to all the other guests for all the other shows and hadn't noticed that the ones today hadn't actually got my email or weren't available today, or various other reasons that were beyond their control, which I should have really sorted sooner. Anyway, the very lovely Caron Jane Lyons. Caron Jane? Have you got a Jane in your name? I don't think you have. I can't even remember. Caron, she's here. I'm going to bring her in, and I don't even know what's happening anymore. Hello.
Hello, Elise. Hello. Yes, it's Caron.
It's Caron. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, as I say, it is Caron Jane or CJ, but as I say, Caron is the one of the moment. Yes.
Just what shall I be today? I shall be Caron. No, or as the lovely Michael Broussard said, Caron. That was lovely, Caron. It's very exotic.
Yes, it's my equity name.
Yes.
There you go. Yes, there's an exclusive to the podcast that people might not know. My birth name is actually Sharon.
Wow. Oh, well.
I grew up in the era of Birds of a Feather with the Shaz and Trace, and it drove me crazy. So the first moment I had to legitimately change my name, which was when I joined Equity in sort of the mid-90s, I became Caron Lyons.
That's fair enough, that's
good. Wouldn't bother me now, but at the time...
It's not a bad name. I mean, I've never met a Sharon that I didn't like, really.
But it was of an era, wasn't it? That whole Shaz and Trace, and my best friend Claire used to get called Tracy all the time, and I just was not a confident teenager, and it was just awful. So, yeah, as soon as I got to change it, a few people already called me Caron. Yeah. But then my first day at university, so before I joined Equity, the first day at university, I introduced myself as Caron, and then nobody knew anything else.
Yeah. But then it's a good job you chose that particular spelling, bearing in mind later iterations.
Yeah. And as I say, it was, with a C. So it is Sharon with a C, literally. But which was not a problem with my Equity card and everything, and until 9/11, and then they really did want you to have it on your birth certificate. It's not, so it's has to re-establish it at different locations, but on a lot of places. But in the entertainment industry, a lot of us have used different names. We have a stage name and we have our own name. I think in the age of social media, where you often change your name or you've got an avatar name, social media for a long time were like, you must use your birth name. It's like, well, actually, there's a lot of people, David Bowie's real name was not David Bowie, and David Williams' real name is not David Williams. Elton John's name is not Elton John. So I think there's precedent in there that maybe, as usual, social media don't quite get reality. It's not a real reality as reality plays out, is it?
No, it's interesting that a lot of people have got famous from social media with very strange names that aren't names, and then that's what they are for the rest of their lives, even though it's not really a name. Now, I very early on tagged my name, my actual name, my Equity name, and my actual name, the name I've always had, on quite a few social media platforms. But then as more come along, I've missed the boat on a few of them. But
yeah, grabbing your name, isn't it? I mean, I was PCM Creative from quite early on. So PCM Creative, which is my avatar name on social media everywhere. When I was at university, we had a house that was owned by my partner's parents. So after university. And so we could do what we liked in that house because it kind of belonged, the landlord were our parents. And so we had a living room that everybody could just draw on, and loads of pens, and there was a creature that got drawn, and he was kind of a cross between Barney the dinosaur and Max the American Eagle. And
scary.
And it was a cutesy one though, sort of Barney the dinosaur. and he became this monster, this purple monster that nobody drew over. So everything else got kind of scribbled on and drawn in, and this creature just kind of maintained his space. So when we painted over him, I kind of claimed him. And at the time, a show that I was desperate to be, if I did a show, what it would be. There's a book by Paul Auster called City of Glass. So COG is cog. So PCM Creative is the purple cog monster. And I've kind of taken him everywhere with me, but it's a little bit odd. But yeah, so I don't even use my name on social media when I'm bagging usernames. So keeping that consistency.
That's good. Fox7466 has just donated. It's the first donation I've had of this Fringe.
Oh, cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you
made
too.
my whole week, my whole month, actually.
I know. So I'm just gonna because I usually do a podcast at this time called the West Park Park Bench Podcast, and I wanted to trial a live component this year. Because at the Fringe, what are you going to do? I'm not actually in Edinburgh, but when I'm up in Edinburgh, I would like to honour the liveness of being present and doing the can't be there, be here. It was an opportunity to take podcast and try out technology, because I like to see what is possible and how you can reach audiences and creatives who everything that we do needs to have a revenue stream, and that usually comes from an audience. So how do you build that audience? How do you grow that audience? How do you keep that audience engaged? And there's a lot to be learned from business in general, and they're always talking about customer retention. But audience is so much more pleasant. So yeah, this Fringe this year is a bit of an opportunity to poke that retention boat, really. And as I say, we've got this podcast. I'm streaming it live to Clubhouse. So there is a Clubhouse house for PBH Free Fringe this year.
Nice.
I thought I'd set it up. So yeah, I think just running audio conversations in the background, so people who don't want to be on video all the time. So yeah, I might see if I can fire that up one evening and sit there and see if anyone drops in for a chat, but it's just as and when. So yeah, podcast today, and then this evening is the very first trial of the Cybersalon evening. So we've got 7 till 9, it's about 7 till 10 probably. But the idea is that anybody can come to the virtual space, so the Cybersalon space. I will tweet some links and I'll put something in the show notes for you as well, so if people want to check it out.
Yeah.
But that's a 3D walk around space that we can watch things together in the same space. So it's kind of a watch party experiment, and there's not a lot of people around in meta spaces and virtual worlds at the moment, and people are pushing them. But you often go in there, and if there was animated tumbleweed, it would not be ironic.
But it sounds exciting. So you've got Cybersalon, so that's various different shows and acts, and what will be happening in the space?
Yeah, so the first 45 minutes, there'll be sort of 5 minutes where I'll tweet out, I'll try and get some people into the space. A few people are turning up, and it's a replay night. So there's this week, next Tuesday, and the Tuesday after. This Tuesday is taking a selection of sessions that have been performed live or played in live at previous virtual sessions. There's Simon Sargerson, who is a coder and musician and live codes to music. So in the physical venue, there'll be like a DJ playing some music, and he's at a keyboard typing, and it turns it into graphics on the screen that respond to the music. So that was a pre-record that's going to be played in. There's 2 pieces from a folk musician called Irina, and I'm going to murder her surname. It's one of those beautiful sort of Eastern European, I can't even pronounce it, so Irina, I apologise. But she's got 2 pieces. One is animated to a underwater goldfish that just swims across a massive screen throughout the piece. It's just really calming. And then another one that she's done is more graphics animated to the music, and it's called The Wayback Machine. So she'd written it thinking about sort of the internet and how we go back in time, and there's that concept. And then finally there's a 20-minute piece from a musician called John Horsley, and he usually plays live from his studio, which goes live into the physical space, and then we broadcast that into the virtual space. But that was a pre-record that I had just in case things go wrong. I had a pre-record, and so I had that in archive, so I'm going to play that. And then at about 7:45, I will announce to everyone, or bring everybody to sort of the front of the room. And there's 2 shows tonight on the Digital Fringe. There's WFT versus Michael Brouchard, and there's also Inky Sci-Fi and Horror. So we're going to anybody there. We'll say there's a link on the screen. Scan that in your room. Go and see the show. Here's the Zoom link. Here's the link to go and see. Sign up. Be there for 8:00. Go and see the show. So they're on Zoom. So audience in the digital virtual will go to the physical audience, or digital physical audience, and they will be in their audience. So one thing I was really concerned about with the virtual space is that we bring people into the virtual space, watch the shows, but they would then be live in their Zoom call with only their audience, and we might be able to contribute to their audience. So the whole point of exploring audience is that potentially they get more audience. So this idea of using that virtual space as a foyer, and then like you go to the cinema, you go to the cinema screening that you want to go and see, and then you can come back to the hub and kind of say what you saw and have a little bit of a trip. So it's digital theatre trip. So that's the idea. And tonight's the first night that there would be 2 choices.
Great.
So next Monday, I think the choice is you and Michael. And on the final Tuesday, is it you? Or is it just Michael next week?
I think so. I do. I'm doing a show on Wednesdays and Sundays.
So
and then I'm doing this in the morning.
So that's the idea. And as of next Tuesday, well, from next weekend, there will be the Edinburgh Skybox. So we were literally moving the environment that we've got at the moment, which is a bit of a test. I'm putting up posters, I'm connecting all the donation links, making it look a bit pretty. That's my first week of Fringe. And then next week, if you come and visit the space, you'll be able to go and see the landscape and horizon of Edinburgh.
Oh yeah, you were showing me around that yesterday. It's actually the top of Calton Hill, and you can sort of see, it's mostly, you can see Leith and you can see a little bit of the town, but it's mostly over the top. But it's nice. You're like floating in the sky like a UFO, or is a UFO going, I am here now, and so you can see it. It's pretty cool.
So it's sort of a bit of an Edinburgh Fringe experiment, and because of PBH and the ethos, which really echoes with the sort of arts and community and digital exploration that I want to do, that it just made sense. And hey, getting time to spend some creative time with your good self, which is never a bad thing.
Of course. I mean, that makes up for everything else.
Well, you do digital stuff, and you do spend a lot of time on your own at your desk. So when you can make these connections and live shows, and hopefully people are watching it live, it is very different knowing that there might be someone in the background watching. And how you frame those audiences, because with the podcast, usually today I would go to the park bench, I would record it with the notion that someone might listen to it, but it's not the same as recording it knowing that somebody's listening to it live. And that liveness, I think, is really important for live performers.
This whole thing about how many people in the audience, I mean, there's the potential with digital for it to be seen by thousands, but not all at the same time necessarily, but maybe at the same time, whereas there is a physical limit on, even if you're in Edinburgh and you've got a 500 seater, that's as many people as are going to see you ever, unless you've recorded it. So it's interesting that you might not see as many at first, but more people might see you ultimately. It's a difficult thing to get your head around, really.
Yeah, and I think with the free Fringe, PBH's free Fringe especially, because the shows are on regularly, if you drop in or you overhear a show because you're in having a coffee, you do have the opportunity to go back and see it again.
Yeah.
Because your contribution and donation, the time you see it, potentially means you could go back and see it as many times as you want. If you felt you wanted to recontribute, then do so. But I think there's that being able to not miss out. And with theatre, quite often you'll find out that something happened. I'm in Nottingham in the East Midlands, that there was something on at the Playhouse. I was like, oh, I would have really liked to have seen that, but it's gone. And although it might have toured somewhere else, it might as well have gone because you can't get there. And being able to find out about something that was live and then get the chance to go, oh, I can go and see it next week, is quite key in Edinburgh. And I think, I don't know, be interested to know if anyone from Edinburgh is taking time to pause and look at these roundups and how we kind of encourage people to do that, because although we're broadcasting to the world, we are doing it for the Fringe, we are doing it for Edinburgh. And it would be, I think, if someone is just having a manic day and they don't quite know what to do today, that they could start their day by tuning in at 11 o'clock to this and just going, oh, that gives me a grounding, so it'd be lovely to be able to offer that consistency. I'm hoping to be at least for a week in Fringe next year to live stream some of the shows. I think there's
I mean that's a great opportunity. Today I've already this morning there's been illness. If somebody's ill with PBH, it's sort of it's difficult if you're very ill, but it's good to get somebody to cover your show. And today, somebody through illness, somebody covering the show is Victoria Scheinman, who will be covering Trevor Locke, who's not available today, and President Obonjo, who's not available, who's only here till the 16th, is going to cover the one at Bannerman's. So there's 2 changes of shows, but I'm interviewing Victoria this week. So talk about how that went. So that's good, because it's a lot of people would have come and seen Trevor Locke's show. So get well soon, and it's good that people have come together very quickly to fill in that space. So it's a nice on the ground collaboration.
Yeah.
I think in the paid Fringe it might be more difficult because you're actually having to pay for a venue, and I think if you're off, then that's it. There's probably a great big slot that's not really free. Ooh, there's a lot of people coming from inside. Is there a party of 100?
Can you hear people? You can hear people coming in. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can do I can't do a camera spin on here, can I? But yeah, so I'm sat in the foyer of the West Park swimming pool leisure centre. So there's some kids just come in. I think they're doing some holiday activities. So yeah.
So there's a lot going on and lots of things. I'm going to be in Edinburgh hopefully from Sunday, although I don't know, my train is a bit like how do I get there? It changes and things, so I'm hopefully going to get there by Sunday night. So it's good to be on the ground to see what's going on. But that is the good thing with having a show for 3 weeks, that you can go and see it more than once.
Yeah. And as you can't, as an independent, you have to do everything, but you can't do everything because there's the preparation for the show. It's just got a bit loud in here. I'm going to see if I can. There we go. I think I'm close. I'm close enough to be. Close enough to be with the Wi-Fi, but I'm also keep an eye on my bags because they didn't want to leave my bags unattended. Yeah. So being an independent and being Fringe, I think the scale that Fringe is, I think there are some big shows that go up to Edinburgh, and there are some big venues, but essentially it is very small, niche, trial. People are going up, trying material, also just trying to get that Edinburgh badge, because being able to put on your posters that you're an Edinburgh show, and especially if you get one of the coveted 5-star reviews that you can genuinely use for review purposes. So yeah.
Yeah, somebody was saying that they've put themselves out there, and Chortle is a very big industry paper, and they were saying, and you're going up there and you would kill for an elusive 2-star review from Steve Bennett. And I was like, I've had that. I would, on reflection, prefer to have one person in my audience and have a really terrible 2-star review that is there forever. In actual fact, it wasn't a terrible review, but it was only 2 stars. So it's like, it doesn't matter. He said some scathing things, though. I didn't read it till the year after, and I was like, oh. But I mean, I laughed about it then, but the only reason I laughed about it is that year I got a 1-star review, which I also laughed uproariously about because it was so ridiculous. So I think you need to put that sort of spin on it and just go, well, do you think that you were a 1-star show? No. And so everything else is like one up from that. It's like, that's ridiculous. There are some shows that get 5 stars and 1 star for the same performance on the same day. And it's just like, that's it with reviews, though. I go to see shows that I thought, this is a good show. This is a good quality show. I wonder what the reviewers will think about it. And I go, that's not what I saw. What's going on? It's just...
Yeah. Well, I think I remember following Tim Minchin's career, his first show doing Edinburgh, being brought over from Melbourne Fringe, and he got a really bad review, and he wrote a song about it, and that poor reviewer, I think, was I know Tim Minchin has since sort of not regretted writing the song, but it's like, since he's become so famous, it's kind of haunted the poor guy, and it's like, be careful how you critique.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've got nothing against Steve Bennett, and I'd actually met him socially before that, which made it even more devastating when I didn't get a good review.
It's like, thanks, mate.
Like, oh no. He came in late as well. That was the worst thing. And I had a friend of mine who's that year, you were saying about going to repeat shows. I'd gone and seen their show loads of times, and they'd got a 2-star review as well and were devastated about it. So before anyone came in, I was just saying to my audience, I hope that I don't get reviewed, because I know that he wouldn't like mine either. And then he comes in and I go, hello, Steve Bennett, and everybody laughs. And of course he's confused and doesn't know what's going on. So it didn't help really. So it's like, I knew what was going to happen though. It was inevitable. The inevitability of knowing it's just nice to be sort of Cassandra sometimes, although that is a terrible curse.
Yeah, it is tricky. I think the one review that always makes me chuckle, as someone had, I think I was at now Theatre by the Lake, but the Blue Box Theatre up in Keswick, Century Theatre at the time, and one of the reviews was, there's more tension in my knitting than there is in this performance of Importance of Being Earnest. And you know, he's like, do you show the cast when there's bad reviews?
Exactly. I got somebody to read it for me and says, is it as bad as everyone says? And she's like, yeah, it is. And I was like, I'm not going to read it then. But then it turns out, I mean, he was saying things like that I was nice or things. It wasn't really comedy, but I was a pleasant person, and that I hadn't done any research. And that, of course, I had, but the whole sort of framing of it was that I was inept and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just making it up as I was going along.
That what?
It's most unfair. Yeah. Yes, but it's supposed to be.
You were ahead of your time, Elise. You were ahead of your time. a lot of that sort of comedy personas has really come to the fore now, especially with social media, of, you know, people who do comedy stuff for TikTok, and then that's not, you know, no one's real on stage, just like nobody's real on social media. It's you know, you're playing a character. You're, you know, one of the reasons why I really wanted to do my podcast is I have this tendency to turn the camera on and go, hey, and just be this big, over gregarious character, and it's like, no, I want to try and be a little calmer. So, you know, I try and make my podcasts take a breath. All the things that you learn at drama school, you say, take a breath before going on stage, compose yourself. And they're all things that are important for public speaking as well, not just going online, but just trying to think about those things so that, you know, when I do podcasts producing for others, I can kind of practice what I preach. Doesn't always come across, but I try.
It's difficult. Yeah, no. It's the thing about acting and personas. You're right, though. I mean, a couple of times I've gone quite far and I thought, that is acting genius. That is so good. And the person who's actually been in the scene with me has been like, this is a dangerous, terrible person, and thought that that was actually me. And it's like, how much of the actual persona is you? And you think, maybe I am this dangerous and weird, and but you're like, but no, it was acting. Do you not understand acting?
It's where you draw those characters from, isn't it? And I think good actors, I mean, some of the named actors that I've met, I've always been quite surprised at how humble and timid and quiet they are. So, and then you see some of the films and theatre that they've done, and you're like, they are very different. And I think the better the actor, the more difference there is between their persona. And I think it's sometimes when you see an actor that plays a similar kind of role all the time, you sort of think, are they acting or are they just playing an extension of themselves?
Yeah, but then
until you see them interviewed. Yeah, I've seen them interviewed, and then you go, oh, actually, you're a really good actor.
Exactly. I mean, everyone goes, well, Michael Caine's the same person. I would not think that Michael Caine's persona is actually what Michael Caine is like in real life.
No, I suspect
everyone goes,
not.
oh, he's just being himself. I think it is a special skill. But when you're very different to your persona, people do tend to think, oh, that person's, if you go out of your way to play dangerous psychos, and people tend to think, even if you're the most lovely person in the world, there's always that suspicion, what are you really like? But he's acting!
Yeah. It is acting, but then it's also, I think there's a duty of care that is not always around where it should be, because when you are acting, you do put yourself into a very vulnerable situation, especially if you're playing characters. I think the rise of intimacy directors on stage, on set, I think is a really good direction to go in.
Oh yeah, I think that's very important, because you don't want to do something on stage that is actually disturbing to the other person in a way that devastated them forever. And
also with playing relationships, the amount of relationships that break down in real life because of affairs that happen in the rehearsal room, and it's just, you spend so much time within that intimacy circle that if you're playing a character that has to have an intimacy with your leading opposite character, you are inevitably going to search for those feelings to make a real performance. And not only are you on stage together, you're also rehearsing those lines backwards and forwards, and you're rehearsing them in different ways, and you're saying them in different ways, and you're changing the intonation. And so it's almost like ritualizingly embedding a relationship into your psyche.
Yeah.
So it is intimacy directors being able to maintain that separation, I think, is a really, really good thing that potentially isn't acknowledged by the outside world, but within the industry, it's essential that any relationship should have that go-between. It's like having a chaperone that ultimately, I know several relationships that have broken down because they end up not being able to trust them on tour, or and the relationship when you're on tour and you've got a long distance relationship with a long-term partner, it can be really hard because now there's video calls. But it's funny, when I was on tour, I would always phone my other half, and now that technology is the way that it is, we still phone. We don't do video calls. He's the only person that I actually, when I'm away, we would just do an audio call. It's really odd. It's like we never quite moved into the video arena.
That's interesting. I don't. There's a few people that still phone me, but I usually don't answer my phone. So there's not that many audio interactions I've had with people in the last 10 years. I tend to shy away from that, really.
Yeah. And it's like with audio podcasts and streaming to Clubhouse. I mean, when Clubhouse first sort of came on the scene, I kind of checked it out, got my PCM Creative account, as I do with many new ones. As I would deliberated on Threads, and then I thought, oh, actually, I just need to get my profile. I would like to have a Blue Sky profile, but I can't find anybody that can give me a invitation, because Blue Sky is still invite only.
Is it? Yeah, there was a few that were invite only that I can't even remember what they were that I got invitations to and then never used. So I think that wasn't one of them.
Yeah, it's an odd world, isn't it? It is. I mean, the thing that I tend to see with new platforms is I find it curious to see who arrives first, and they tend to be those influencers that have been there from the beginning. So I think it's good to see who you can favourite first, because they tend to be the people that have been around since the beginning of your own social media presence, and the algorithm kind of loses them over time because you're not interacting with them, but you are interested in what they say. You might see them on LinkedIn even, or the people that I originally met online and then bumped into at various social media events. It's interesting to see who arrives first and then what they evolve into. So I'm going to spend over the Fringe. I'm going to look at firing up Clubhouse a few times, a few evenings, and just sit there for 30 minutes and see if anybody drops in without being on show, because I think that's the thing, isn't it? We fire this up and we're kind of chatting as a live show, as a radio show, but Clubhouse is a bit more, chilling out in a lounge, and someone might turn up, they might not turn up.
And then what time this evening is this Cybersalon starting?
7:00. So 7:00 I will turn the space live, so I can do that, so anybody who is on Spatial will know that the event is live. And when you come to the Spatial homepage, you'll also be able to see it on the Spatial homepage, because not a lot of stuff happens, so we end up getting first page
and
profiling.
You just drop in if you're a bit late.
Yeah. And then I will, over 45 minutes, I'll play these pieces, and then at 7:45 I will put the slide up on the screen that lets people choose which show they're going to go to. I'm going to go and see the Inky sci-fi and horror show, because I saw Michael's last time. We'll see Inky. And then I will be heading back at, I think they finish, it's an hour show for them, so they will finish at 9. I will head back to Cyberia for 9, and then if anybody drops in to say hi, I'll do a few after tweets and see how it goes. So
that sounds really cool, and I'm going to do that too. And I think I'm probably going to see Michael Broussard's show again, because that was really good, but I might see it because he's only on a few nights, and so so start choosing. It's like, I want to see these and I want to see this. It's like, oh, there's so much going on. And that's the thing with actually down on the ground in Edinburgh as well. So much stuff, but you can go another day sometimes.
And they are, I mean, as you say, sometimes you'll look at a theatre programme and you'll go, do I really want to see that? But these are 2 really good shows, and they're live. You get to sit in the comfort of your chair. Michael's interaction, you can just comment and he'll just pick your questions up and include them in his storytelling, and you just hear this narrative about his life story. I mean, it's an amazing story, and to be sharing it in that intimate space of Zoom is really good. It would almost seem a bit voyeuristic if it was in a live physical space. You would have a different relationship with him in terms of sat in the audience, whereas this is something you're being confided in. And then the Inky horror and sci-fi, don't quite know what that one's going to be, but I think it's storytelling again, isn't it? It's storytelling.
It is. He was on the Digital Fringe last year as well, when it was called the Virtual Fringe last year. But so that's
cool.
Great. And his some of his old shows are still available on YouTube, so you can see old ones as well. So maybe don't see them till after you've seen the new ones.
See the live,
and then catch up from everything. So that's good. And I've got the rest of the day. I'm going to go and see the Cybersalon and probably see Inky show. And what I liked about Michael's show is that I didn't realize that you could do webcasts on Zoom, which was, I was like, oh, because I've not, even though I've been trying to explore ways to do shows, I didn't really think, I don't think I've explored as much as I could have done, because it made me think, oh, I could do that. And so it's made me think
he does use the webinar feature, which is an extra payment. So, because with Zoom webinar, you get the Q&A feature. So you don't get breakout rooms in Zoom webinar, you only get breakout rooms in meeting. And you don't get Q&A in meeting, you only get that in webinar. So.
But that is interesting. Although I did see that Justine Bateman had said that the Zoomers changed their terms and conditions so that they can nab all your stuff for AI, which is a bit worrying.
Oh, that's another conversation we might have. So, as I say, next guests will arrive, and I may be a stunt guest again. Maybe that's it. Next time we'll have a chat about AI.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure you will be a stunt guest again, because I'm going to mess up badly again, and you'll have to rescue me from my own ineptitude. It's inevitable, really.
Yeah, no, it's the regularity of being able to do it daily. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It is a challenge. I mean, YouTubers that do a daily upload, I take my hat off to them.
No, I've had sporadic times. It's like, oh, this is an April where I'm going to do a thing a day, and it's like, oh, that's really worked, and that really got me, because I lost my partnership at one point, and it got me back on there, and I was like, oh well, that's it then. I don't need to.
Yeah,
it
is tricky. I mean, I tend to default to the 6 episodes, and then as long as I get to number 6, I can kind of stop. But the West Park podcast today would have been, or I'm going to record the podcast on the way home, but that's episode 42. So I'm on season 3, episode 42.
Life, the universe, and everything with your
yeah, cool.
Excellent. Well, I'll let you get in your way so you can actually record your podcast, and look forward to listening to that.
Yeah, well, I'll see. I'll see if there's been anybody dropping in the background on Clubhouse.
Brilliant.
And then I will see you this evening in Cyberia.
Absolutely. That sounds brilliant. Thank you very much. So I'm going to end the broadcast now. We'll be back tomorrow with actual guests that I've booked properly. You are an actual guest, but you're just resting.
It's useful for decorating or doing.
Yeah, noise. I'll go now. See you then. Bye bye.